Lots of people out there have childhood memories of board games with their family and their friends. My family grew up on Monopoly, a game that my siblings and mother constantly accuse each other of cheating at. However, a couple of my friends have a go-to game in the form of Axis and Allies. Instead of fighting over finances and property, they go to war. While Axis and Allies is a little bit on the extreme side for me when it comes to strategy games, there is a more simple version of the same type of game, and that has been released on the Nintendo Switch as of a couple years ago. Something I first played in video game form back on the PS1. Here is my review of Risk Global Domination for the Nintendo Switch. When it comes to gameplay, Risk is a turn-based strategy game. Now, this version of Risk is the same as the PS4 and Xbox One version, from the game modes to the online multiplayer and leagues. And speaking of modes, you've basically got two areas that you can go into. You've got offline or single player mode where you can set up matches against the AI or kind of couch versus with other players. And then you've got the online mode where you can challenge other players from around the globe both in single and tournament style formats. Now, when you actually dive into the game, there are three different game types that you can go into. You've got your standard global domination, where all of the players are assigned territories and whoever takes over everything wins. The second is called capture capitals, where you don't have to take over every territory, but just the capital building or capital territory of each country. And finally, we get to the really interesting one called secret mission. When you start this game type and your first turn comes up, you decrypt a special operation that is basically a unique challenge to each player, and it's a race against time to be able to see which player can fulfill their objective first. But now let's talk about how the game is played. As I said earlier, Risk is a strategic war board game like Axis and Allies, but considerably less intricate. When you start up a game, each player is assigned territories, but not all territories. There will be some that will be neutral that any player can go out of their way to attack and claim for themselves later. During each player's turn, there are three phases. The first is drafting, where you can put new recruits and troops into your territories. Then you can attack other territories to claim them, and finally you can gain cards from territories you take over to exchange for more troops in future turns. Now, when we get to how you take over other territories, we get to the part where Risk is a lot simpler than games like Axis and Allies. You can take any of your troops and send them to a surrounding territory to be able to attack it and try to claim it. Now, when you do this in Axis and Allies, you have a bunch of different troop types: infantry, tanks, fighter jets, and they all have different dice values that you have to get when you do your rolls. But in Risk, you just have troops. The attacking and defending players both roll dice, and whoever rolls the higher numbers wins that skirmish and destroys some troops from the other side. And this simplicity isn't really a bad thing, as it makes the game much easier to learn and get into, especially for those not familiar with this type of board game. The game also helps you out with a little tactical advice feature where you can hit a button and the game will tell you whether there's a good move you can make and advise you on which one they think is the best. Now, getting into all of this, it's very clear that Risk is a game that's more fun the more players you have. When I first started it and did my stream a few weeks ago, I did a match against a single AI, and I have never done a single AI match ever again. Regardless of difficulty, if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to get that much learning out of a match with a single AI, as they'll just start using all of their knowledge to annihilate everything you have. That first match I told you about was basically just me not having much I could do and sitting and watching all of my territories fall left and right. It wasn't until I made a follow-up match with 3 to 4 other AI that things went a lot slower and I was able to take the time to be able to learn more. So a lot of this stuff comes together to have a very fun little type of war game, but it is a bit lacking when it comes to content. You've got your 3 different game modes and online that you can jump into, but there isn't that much in terms of unlockable content. You do have some cosmetic items that you can unlock through very specific types of challenges, but outside of that, it's basically just play the game and then start over, play the game again. Though on the bright side, I have seen Risk go on sale extremely often on the Nintendo Switch eShop, so even if you don't want to pay full price for it, just wait a few weeks and it'll probably be at least 50% off. Now as far as presentation goes, you don't really play this game for huge graphics, though I do admit that the virtual assistant and just the overall war room style of the game does look really neat. And to conclude this section, I have no issues regarding performance, so let's go right into battery life. On the original model, Risk has a battery range of 3 hours and 3 minutes up to 4 hours and 13 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 3 hours and 9 minutes up to 5 hours and 3 minutes. And on the V2 Redbox 2019 model, it has a range of 5 hours and 6 minutes up to 7 hours and 4 minutes. In conclusion, Risk brings strategic war board games to handhelds in a stylish way. Now on the downside, there isn't really that much here outside of just playing the game with very little unlockables. But if you're into war games or want something similar but not as intricate as Axis and Allies, this game goes on sale quite frequently and can be a lot of fun to play with friends. Reviews to Go rates Risk for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.